have a joy about me or an effervescence or something, but it is not, it's genuine.
You know Angie Dickinson as one of old Hollywood's most stunning beauties, right? The woman who had literally everyone falling at her feet, actors, musicians, industry titans. But here's something that'll blow your mind. Underneath all that glamour, there was a story she kept locked away for almost 50 years. We're talking about a secret romance with another woman, a major female star. And this wasn't just some casual fling. This was a love affair that unfolded behind closed doors, at exclusive parties, on film sets where cameras weren't rolling. The kind of relationship that could have destroyed both their careers in an instant. And it nearly did. Because what followed? Threats, anonymous phone calls in the dead of night, and an unwritten law in Hollywood that still makes people uncomfortable today. So who was this mystery woman Angie fell for? And after decades of silence, why did she finally choose to speak? Stick around, because we're diving deep into one of Hollywood's most forbidden love stories. Let's rewind to the 1950s. Back then, if you were talking about Hollywood, you were talking about Angie Dickinson, period. Her beauty? Absolutely magnetic. Her presence? Commanding. Men couldn't get enough of her. Elvis Presley? Yeah, he'd invite her to private screenings. Frank Sinatra? He'd chase her around at those fancy Beverly Hills parties like his life depended on it. She was the girl, the one everyone wanted but couldn't have. Hollywood's ultimate fantasy. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. Behind that picture-perfect image, Angie had given her heart to someone completely unexpected, someone the industry would never accept. A legendary actress who happened to be a woman. Her name? Barbara Stanwyck. Now, Barbara wasn't just any actress. She was a powerhouse. 22 years older than Angie, she'd been ruling Hollywood since the 1930s with classics like Stella Dallas and Double Indemnity. Tough, talented, unforgettable. But her personal life? That was wrapped in mystery. See, Barbara had been married to Robert Taylor. They were called Hollywood's golden couple. But then out of nowhere, in 1951, she divorced him. No explanation, no drama, just done. After that, she lived alone in this massive mansion on Loma Vista Drive in Beverly Hills. Never remarried, never dated publicly. Never said a word about who she was seeing, if anyone at all. And naturally, people started talking. In 1954, Confidential magazine, the gossip rag that had no chill, straight up questioned her love life. Their headline? Hollywood's stone-faced star and her shadowy love life. They called her the only leading lady at Paramount without a man on her arm. The whispers got louder. Stories started circulating about Barbara having secret relationships with younger women in the industry. And you know whose name kept coming up in those whispers? Angie Dickinson. Between 1955 and 1957, people started noticing something. Angie and Barbara were showing up together a lot. At parties thrown by director Howard Hawks, at screenwriter Charles Brackett's place, always close, always in their own little world. And more than once, they'd disappear from the crowd, just the two of them, finding quiet corners where no one else could intrude. There's this one story from a spring party in 1956 at the Sunset Tower Hotel. An anonymous photographer claimed they saw Barbara gently touch Angie's shoulder while they were talking in a secluded spot. The photo was never published, but the story? It spread like wildfire among Hollywood insiders. Here's the thing. Hollywood back then wasn't ready for this. Not even close. The closeness between Barbara and Angie, combined with Barbara's intensely private lifestyle, became one of the industry's worst-kept secrets, but nobody talked about it openly. It got buried under Hollywood's shiny, perfect surface, just another skeleton in the closet. But secrets, they always find a way out eventually. And there was this one evening in 1956, inside a quiet villa tucked away in the Beverly Hills hills. That's when their eyes met for the first time, and nothing was ever the same again. Now, this chance meeting might have sparked something beautiful, but what came next?
Danger, challenges at every turn, obstacles they couldn't have imagined. There are no official photos of what happened between them, no public statements, no one directly involved ever confirmed a thing. But if you've been paying attention to the breadcrumbs leaked over the last 70 years, a haunting picture starts to form. The truth? Angie Dickinson and Barbara Stanwyck shared something real, a love story that Hollywood would never allow. It all started on May 18, 1956. There was this intimate gathering at Cary Grant's estate in Benedict Canyon. No press, no paparazzi, just Hollywood's elite and a few rising stars. Angie was there, still relatively unknown, not yet the icon she'd become. And then Barbara arrived, late as usual, but different that night. Barely any makeup. She came alone. When she walked into the backyard, Angie was chatting with some young screenwriters. Nobody expected what happened next. These two women talking privately for nearly 40 minutes. No one knows what they said, but something shifted, something profound. Roberto Delgado, a server working that night, later recalled, "Barbara and Angie stood away from everyone else. I don't know what they discussed, but there was this intimacy between them. You could feel it." Just 1 week later, Angie did something shocking. She turned down a role in a major film, citing health reasons. But here's what really happened. A leaked internal note from Columbia's director's office revealed the truth. She wanted to avoid press attention after the Benedict incident. What went down that night that made Angie retreat from the spotlight so fast? The connection between Barbara and Angie became harder to hide. In June 1956, Photoplay published a blurry backstage photo. Two women sitting close together in a Paramount dressing room. Readers immediately started speculating. Is that Barbara Stanwyck and Angie Dickinson? 1 week later, the image vanished from the reprint. No explanation, nothing. The photo was grainy, barely evidence at all, but enough to make people wonder. More clues kept surfacing. In July, an editor at Modern Screen named Lydia Morgan published this cryptic piece called "The Secret Woman in a Star's Life." It described a veteran actress taking care of a younger rising star on the Hollywood Hills. In her memoir, years later, Lydia admitted she was writing about Barbara and Angie, but she never named them, too scared of getting sued. Even TV couldn't ignore the rumors. A local station ran a late-night segment about a relationship between an older and younger female star who were renting a heavily guarded villa in West Hollywood. No hard proof, but they mentioned a specific detail. A pearl-colored Cadillac parked outside 731 North Harper Avenue. That was Barbara's car. Too specific to be a coincidence. Things got messier. Barbara's longtime chauffeur got fired abruptly after allegedly confessing he once drove both women to the same location, but had to drop them off separately. A production secretary remembered Angie refusing to film on location outside L.A., not because of health issues. She hinted at something else. No matter how careful they were, Angie couldn't escape the industry's watchful eyes. Paparazzi never captured the smoking gun moment, but the rumors wouldn't stop. One Paramount board member put it this way: "No one talked about it out loud, but everyone knew they were hiding something." And then the inevitable happened. Their secret started to unravel. A relationship with no real future, but too powerful to walk away from. And one cold, hard truth stared them in the face. No secret stays buried forever, no matter how deep you bury it.
In July 1958, everything changed because of one photograph. At Venice Beach, Angie Dickinson and Barbara Stanwyck were caught in a moment they couldn't explain away. Hand in hand, eyes locked with an affection that was impossible to misinterpret. At first, the Los Angeles Times held back from publishing it. But then it hit the front page of the Hollywood Gazette with a headline that sent shockwaves: "Friendship or something deeper between two stars?" That headline detonated like a bomb. Hollywood erupted into absolute chaos. This was the end of their peaceful existence. The press descended like vultures, spinning wild stories about their relationship.
Both women were thrown into a media firestorm, their privacy shattered, their lives spiraling into crisis. Confidential magazine pounced immediately, publishing a brutal exposé on Barbara Stanwyck. They dredged up her past, her marriage to Robert Taylor in 1939, the sudden, unexplained divorce in 1951, how she'd lived alone ever since, fueling endless speculation. What most people didn't know? Barbara had long been the subject of rumors about same-sex relationships. Insiders whispered that, despite her marriage, her real emotional connection had been with Mercedes de Acosta, a famous screenwriter. It was never confirmed publicly, but the rumors persisted. Now, even the faintest hint of this hidden past was being dragged into the light. And Angie? She hadn't been part of Barbara's history, but she was the one paying the price. Every move she made was scrutinized, magnified, dissected by the public. She was accused of dragging Barbara into disgrace. Headlines dripped with venom. Dickinson, the woman who wants to break all of Hollywood's rules. The articles were relentless. Angie had nowhere to hide. And right in the middle of this storm stood Frank Sinatra, Angie's longtime friend. But instead of helping her, Frank used his power in the worst way possible. Frank was one of the biggest stars on the planet. His influence in Hollywood was massive, not just because of his music, but because of his behind-the-scenes connections. He'd supported Angie from the beginning, back when she was a nobody. But now that Angie's relationship with Barbara had gone public, Frank couldn't stand by anymore. He felt threatened, and he demanded Angie end the affair. "You can't let this destroy your career," he warned her. "Hollywood will never forgive what you're doing." His control became suffocating. He orchestrated every public appearance Angie made, making sure Barbara was nowhere near her. Frank's assistant, Peter Lawford, started monitoring Angie's schedule. One time, when Angie didn't answer his call, Frank sent someone to her apartment just to check on her. Meanwhile, the public pressure kept building. Gossip magazines like Screenland and Modern Screen kept stirring the pot, turning everything into a circus. An article in Hollywood Life titled "The Price of Fame, Even Love Between Two Women" forced readers to confront an uncomfortable reality. Love between Angie and Barbara simply couldn't survive in a society still chained to outdated, brutal norms. A symbol of femininity cannot have a same-sex romance, the article declared, painting both women as outcasts. Angie, though she still met Barbara in secret, started feeling the distance growing between them. A close friend later recalled, "She told me once she couldn't breathe under all the pressure. Frank and the media had taken everything. She had nothing left to hold on to." But the most painful truth? Angie realized Frank hadn't done any of this out of love or concern for her. He did it to protect his own image. Angie was never his priority. She was just collateral damage in the war to preserve Hollywood's perfect illusion. October 15th, 1958. Everything reached a breaking point. And that's when the relationship between Angie Dickinson and Barbara Stanwyck came to a complete end. The hotel room in Beverly Hills was suffocatingly quiet. Angie sat motionless beside the telephone, her face lit only by the dim light coming through the window. Confusion clouded her expression, but underneath it all was something deeper, turmoil she couldn't escape. She was waiting for a call from Frank Sinatra, the call that would be her final push, an unavoidable decision. The time had come. Frank had called her a week earlier. This time it wasn't advice, it was an ultimatum. His voice was cold, sharp as a knife, and it left Angie gasping for air. "I don't want to hear anything else. You choose me or Barbara." She could hear the fury in his voice. Frank didn't respond well to defiance, never had. Their relationship had never been just romantic. It was a power dynamic, a partnership where Frank held all the strings. He'd helped Angie when she was a nobody, but now that things were spiraling out of control, he couldn't tolerate her rebellion. Her relationship with Barbara wasn't just love anymore. It had become something dangerous, a threat to the career he'd helped build. In the end, Angie stood between love and survival. A brutal choice, one she couldn't avoid any longer. And in that moment, she made the decision that would haunt her for the rest of her life. She chose to end it with Barbara, to protect herself in the ruthless world of Hollywood. The next morning, as the first rays of sunlight pierced the curtains, Angie arrived at Barbara's villa. She felt like she was walking into a trap. For weeks, she'd avoided Barbara's calls, but now she couldn't run anymore. It had to end. Angie stepped into the grand room. Everything was as it had always been, yet the silence made it feel hollow, strange. No Barbara on the sofa with her favorite book, no scent of the fragrant oil diffuser in the air, only a heavy, painful quiet. She left a short, cold letter on the table. "I'm sorry. I can't continue. I can't live under this scrutiny. I can't hold on to this relationship when the world has turned its back on me." With that note, Angie walked out of Barbara's life. No explanation, no second glance. This decision, right or wrong, was a devastating blow to both of them. Immediately afterwards, Angie drove to the Sands Hotel in Las Vegas, where Frank was preparing for a major performance. That night, in front of the press and the public, they appeared together, smiling, composed, as if everything was normal again. But there was no joy on Angie's face. She felt like a puppet, no longer herself. The relationship with Frank wasn't love, it was a compromise. And she knew she had lost everything that was real. The press didn't let up. The next day, the New York Daily News ran a piece titled, "Old Flame, New Flame, Angie Dickinson's Brutal Choice." The article didn't just cover her breakup with Barbara. It dug deep into the betrayal Angie had inflicted on the woman she once loved most. It questioned whether Angie truly loved Frank, or if she was simply running away from herself. Things got worse. Other papers followed with even harsher judgment. The Hollywood Reporter wrote, "A love betrayed, not just by society, but by the very people it trusted." The criticism became unbearable. Barbara, known for her strength and resilience, was shattered. After Angie ignored all her calls and left without a goodbye, Barbara was never the same. A close friend recalled, "Barbara once told me I couldn't breathe under all the pressure. Frank and the media had taken everything. She had nothing left to hold on to." But love did not just lose her faith in herself. In the weeks that followed, Barbara withdrew completely. No public appearances, no interviews, as if everything had truly ended. Angie, though she remained with Frank, felt nothing was the same. They continued attending grand events and glamorous parties, but inside, Angie felt hollow. Every step beside Frank felt like she was walking as a ghost, emptied out, controlled by a man she no longer truly loved. The world still saw her as a shining star, a Hollywood icon, but Angie felt she had lost herself. She was no longer the independent, creative woman she once was. She was a marionette, strung up by Frank's hand. Once her closest friend, now the man who stole her freedom. The betrayal between Angie and Barbara wasn't just the end of a passionate love. It was a psychological fracture. Though Angie chose Frank to save her career, it came at a terrible cost.
She'd betrayed a love that was real, and in trying to protect her image, she lost the one thing that mattered most. Hollywood, for all its glitter and glamour, was a place where authenticity had no room to breathe, where true love often had no right to exist. And so the story of Angie Dickinson and Barbara Stanwyck remains a decades-long secret, a deep, passionate love caught in the crossfire of a glittering yet unforgiving Hollywood. Angie, with all her beauty, talent, and power, still couldn't escape the harsh expectations of society. In the end, she was forced to trade love for survival. This tale isn't just about a hidden relationship. It's a mirror held up to an industry filled with untold truths, where some emotions must live only in the shadows. But what do you think about Angie's decision? After everything she endured, did she deserve the pain and sacrifice? Or did Hollywood steal something far more valuable from her? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next untold story from behind the spotlight.